Fire first, please.
Today and go to naturalbiohealth.com. That's naturalbiohealth.com.
647, Todd Jeffries and Don Pryor.
Todd and Don Show.
Here on the Todd and Don Show.
T&D.
You can jump in here, 512-836-0590. Austin will see an estimated $58 million gap between its revenue and expenses by the year 2024. Now, the city's deputy chief financial officer says this because of bills approved by the Texas legislature that will reduce the amount of property tax revenue can increase and limit the franchise fees the city can collect. Yeah, the tax measure approved by the Texas House and the Senate and expected to be signed by the governor will reduce from 8% to 3.5% the amount of local entities property tax revenue can increase year over year over year without the approval of voters. It's set to go into effect January the 1st. Too late to affect the 2020 fiscal year that begins October the 1st, but it's projected to lead to an immediate expenditure revenue gap for the fiscal year 2021, according to our budget officer at the city. Another bill sent to the governor's desk limits the collecting either telecommunication franchise fees or cable franchise fees. Austin currently collects both. The loss of one of these fees will reduce the city's revenue by $4 million fiscal year 2020 and by $5.6 million annually thereafter. That according to the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, Ed Van Eno is his name, Don.
Okay.
Ed Van Eno.
I'm taking note of that name.
Leaders in Austin and other Texas cities, as you know, they've been fighting against this, as they call it, the tax cap, arguing that built-in cost drivers such as cost of living raises for employees, health insurance hikes, and other cost increases typically exceed 3.5% annually, even with no new programs. Thus, affected cities will have to make annual cuts, they say. Year after year, going to be making some cuts. Now, Van Eno, during his presentation to Austin's Regional Affordability Committee, he put the argument into shape like this. Here's what he says. He says he estimates the two measures combined will drop Austin's general revenue $18.5 million below its assumed expenses by the year 2021 and $58.2 million below the cost of 2024. Now, the only good news in this fiscal year, 2020, he says, we predict we'll still be able to balance the budget. That's what Van Eno says. So we have a little bit of time to determine how the city will adjust to this new, much lower revenue reality.
Right.
What are we going to cut?
Well, and of course, we've been threatened by the mayor to do our emergency services because he knew that would scare the hell out of us and hit home.
Well, he's backing away from that now. He's trying to backpedal from that, and we're willing to give him a chance to backpedal from that and change his opinion live on the Todd and Don Show.
Please,
we've been trying to schedule him. We'd love to get him on. We had him on, and he told us the fear tactics before the measure was approved. We had him on the show, and he said public safety amounts for about 70% of the budget, so we'd have to make some public safety cuts.
I mean, that should be, when you talk about making cuts there, that has to be the absolute last option, the last place to go. You have nowhere else to go because you've exhausted every single other possibility. He would really go up in my esteem for sure. I would be much more impressed with this mayor if he got really, really creative in the cuts they make.
This is they're
going to have to do.
They're going to have to make some cuts, some deep cuts, and maybe a combination of deep cuts and stop giving sweetheart deals to big companies that don't need a tax break.
Exactly.
And where they have to pay. Maybe that's what happens first.
I thought everybody was clamoring to be here. I thought Austin had businesses just flocking. They want to be here because it's such a great place. We don't need anything else. You never want to stop growth. I got that.
Sure.
But this is a chance for the mayor to really, really win some points here and get very creative in how they make this budget come together. I'm just throwing that out there.
He will not win points with his progressive followers.
I just thought I'd throw that
Listen,
out.
Van Eno's projections assume no new city programs, but do assume the hiring of 30 new police officers each year and the construction of one new fire station annually. The city council members have said that they would like to see services keep pace with Austin's rapidly growing population. We're not even keeping pace. They'd like for it to keep pace. That's what they say, but they don't vote that way in meetings.
Yeah.
They say they'd like to keep pace. We've been behind for years when it comes to fire stations and police officers per population, per 100,000. Public safety expenditures make up 70% of Austin's general fund, which covers most city operations. And other funds, including utilities and airport, are supported by their own fees and not necessarily property taxes. Now, if council members wish to gain voter approval to raise taxes above the state mandate cap, Van Eno said just yesterday that they will have to approve the budget for a given year in August, at least a month earlier than they do now, in order to call for an election in November, which would fall, a month into the fiscal year. Now, while the labor contracts with the Austin firefighters guarantees an annual raise, the labor agreement approval last year for the city's police officer provides a clause to reduce raises in the event of a revenue cap.
You know, I just keep thinking of all the waste, of all the things that they could cut, and we would not notice any difference in our day-to-day lives. Get rid of your bicycle czar. Get rid of your homeless czar. I know they haven't hired a homeless czar, but just put that on the back burner right now. Get rid of all your czars. Stop any construction of bike lanes and stupid, wasteful stuff like that. And start getting creative. Do some creative math here. Again, another example of why we should have had a city audit, why
Sure.
we should have been able to vote yes for that city audit to find extra money to close this gap.
And it's also another reason why the people of Austin should start voting for politicians that actually can work within the budget.
Yeah.
Within the parameters of what you got.
And bottom line, make the most of what you have, and I bet you'll be amazed at what you come up with.
Well, this new property tax bill did give Austin leaders one major thing that they wanted: a reduction in payment that property wealthy school districts such as Austin pays to the state to subsidize poor property school districts. It's called Recapture, Robin Hood, taking from the rich school districts to give to the poor. The bill would lower those payments by 47%. Austin city leaders have long argued that the school district's recapture payment to the state, rather than the city's portion of the tax bill, are to blame for the most of the pain that homeowners feel from rising property taxes. Yeah, top political leaders at the Capitol, they call this property tax relief a top goal of 2019 in the legislative session. That ended Monday. And according to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, we are giving the people a say in their local government and their taxing policies in a way that they've never had before.
Yeah. You know, I getting back to threatening to cut the budget of our emergency services like police and EMS and fire, that should be something that should never be doing anything but getting better. That should be nothing.
Getting better or getting bigger?
Bigger, better, all the time. All the time.
No, I think those.
Never stop.
I think those fire and police agencies should only keep up with the growth of the population. Period. Whatever the national average should be. What is it? What is the national average police officers per 1,000 residents?
Yes.
That the population should determine the growth of police and fire.
Well, okay, that makes sense. That's practical.
Because if you don't need it, you don't need it, right?
Yes, that's correct. But you should never have to make cuts where cuts aren't needed, and that's what he was threatening with.
Listen,
so.
and as soon as we can get the mayor on, as soon as he agrees to come on, I'm going to ask him. Well, I'm going to tell him. I'm not going to ask him. I'm going to tell him. If he would have done an audit, he would have found $58 million.
Damn right he would have.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe more. And a lot of people don't realize that audit could have been paid for by the money we found.
Yes.
This company that does these kind of audits, they always find money because there's always a little waste in city and county government, and they were willing to wait to be paid based on a percentage of what they find.
Well, it really told me that they were scared of something being found. They were scared of something being uncovered. I think it
Absolutely,
was, and I think it was maybe going to make their jobs a little bit more.
Put them on the line.
It was going to put them on the line. It was going to maybe make things a little bit more tense for them. It's going to make things certainly more transparent. And apparently, that must have been threatening.
Hey, stay with us. Coming up after the top of the hour, you heard about this story? It was a group of 15 women staying in a short-term rental Memorial Day weekend, having a girls' weekend kind of thing.
That's fun.
And a shirtless man came in, broke in, and started rubbing them on their legs as they were sleeping. Oh, yeah. We'll tell you about it. The police are on a search now.
The Todd and Don Show.
Inspire.
Inspire. I got to tell you about Inspire because